Some of us would remember inspecting the water damage to one of the sophomore houses when we first heard the sirens that afternoon. Others would remember eating lunch in the dining hall when the first traces of blue and red painted the air. Still others would conveniently forget the answer to the question. Our collective confusion would be a source of consternation for the administration as they spent the fall semester trying to sort out the details. Your faithful narrator would prove to have the clearest memory of events, becoming invaluable as the police waded through the alibis and plots. Figs fingered Hans as the mastermind of Mr. Baker's kidnapping, having heard about Hans's involvement from Warren, but Hans had a rock-solid alibi. I'll tell it to you as I told it to the cops. Hans was on the roof of the community center with yours truly, watching the storm gather through binoculars when Roger attacked Mr. Baker. Hans's alibi forced Mr. Baker to retract his positive ID, landing the blame solely with Roger and Aspern, neither finding an ally among us. The truth, of course, is that I had no account of Hans's whereabouts at any time that day, and while I was adverse to providing him with an alibi, Figgs's eagerness to sacrifice him to the police changed my mind. I admit to succumbing to the urge for revenge. The opportunity to do to Figgs what he had done to me was not likely to present itself again, I knew. To my credit, I wavered. The police had separated us into groups, fellows pointing at one another as they spoke, sophomores shrugging or crying as the policemen accused everyone of everything. And it was by chance that Hans and I were cordoned off under the palm tree in the lake bed. Mr. Baker accompanied the police officers as they made the rounds, and when Mr. Baker laid eyes on Hans, he gesticulated wildly, saying, "There's one." The nearest officer, a rotund man whose uniform was losing its battle to the heat, asked Hans if he knew anything about the assault on Mr. Baker. Hans shrugged, the gesture agitating the policeman. "I asked you a question, son," he said. "Did you assault this man?" He pointed at Mr. Baker, "along with the others?" Maybe I let him sweat it out a minute, or maybe that's just a story I tell myself. Many stories went around that day, and for months and years after, the truth obscured and then lost. The price of lying seemed affordable then. As it adjusted for inflation over the years, my lie that afternoon at Garden Lakes was steeper than I could have calculated. "He was with me," I said. The alibi satisfied the officer and cast doubt in Mr. Baker's confused mind. He muttered that we all looked alike. The search continued for more perpetrators, interrupted briefly by the caravan of parents summoned by the police, who raced to Garden Lakes to look for their children. It would be some time before we realized that what they were searching for was gone.